Oh boy, I'm talking about everyone's most favoriteest series. I'm sure this video won't incite any controversy at all. I'm pretty sure everybody will be 100% nice and kind and leave very supporting. Oh, who am I kidding? It's Pokemon. So yeah, if you haven't noticed, we're talking about Pokemon again, and I'm sure, again, this will be very fun because so many people are gonna hate me. I have not talked about the franchise since, I think, 2019, maybe early 2020. I wanted to make more videos on it, but the more the more news came out, the more outdated my opinions were, and even if the opinions were still solid, I kind of came to the realization that Game Freak doesn't want to change. They don't. They want to keep the main series the way it's been. They have a very specific mindset. They're not going to go out of it because it's working. They're making money. So I figured, well, I mean, if fans want this and I just don't, then I'm not going to be a fan of the RPGs. I've still kept up with the franchise to an extent. I sometimes follow, the current news. I learned about Pokemon Home and... Oh, Pokemon Home. Credit where credit is due. I have gotten into other avenues of the franchise, like I've gotten into the TCG recently, and that is surprisingly fun, especially online during lockdown. I gave the new anime a shot. Dub is still fucking terrible, mind you. It hasn't been good since 4Kids, which is funny to say because it's 4Kids. But credit where credit is due, the actual structure of the anime, the ideas in Pokemon Journeys are actually pretty interesting. I really like Go. Yeah, okay, he's an arrogant little twat at times, but he usually gets his comeuppance for it, and he is a genuinely interesting idea of a character, where, unlike Ash, he wants to catch every Pokemon. That's something that's never really been explored much in the anime. It's been there, but Ash has never had a goal of catching every single Pokemon. Maybe he has in the back of his mind, but to be honest, it's never really been a big deal to him. I mean, just look at how many Pokemon he has. Usually, yes, they tend to be very strong, but none of them are really something. He's not going to catch them all. He barely has, I think, a 100th of the decks nowadays. And as the roster grows bigger and bigger, it's even less unlikely. So I think the idea of somebody who wants to be the best Pokemon trainer or a Pokemon master, and a Pokemon, collector and catcher, somebody who wants to explore and see the world, I think both are very interesting, and having a deuteragonist pair sort of have that is interesting for a Pokemon show, and it's an interesting direction for Ash as well. Plus, he caught a Riolu, and it evolved into my favorite Pokemon, Lucario. Ash having a Lucario is something that's sort of been hinted at since the Lucario movie, but it just never really ended up happening. I know Gen 4 especially hinted at it in a Riolu episode, so I'm happy they, better late than never, actually did it. And on top of that, Lucario, again, is my favorite Pokemon, so of course I approve. I've also been playing some Pokemon Go, because when I'm walking to the store, sometimes it's nice to have it on and, play the game a bit, mostly during the summertime. Just remember, if you're gonna go outside, wear a mask, because, I have to be that old man who lectures people on they should wear a mask. I mean, hey, anyway, let's just move on. The Pokemon Direct recently came out, and we got a crap ton of news. One of the things was new Pokemon Snap, which is nothing new. We knew about the announcement sometime last year. It was sort of a surprise announcement, too, I think. It was out during a Pokemon Direct. That was probably their biggest announcement. And it looks pretty good. I really don't have anything else to say about Pokemon Snap, It looks like a new Pokemon Snap. I will give it this, though. seeing the graphics and seeing the art style they're going for really makes me hunger for a Pokemon game with that type of art style. Yes, the game is much more linear. It's a rail shooter game in massive air quotes, and because of that, it doesn't have to, the graphics can be a bit more, polished looking because it's so linear in comparison to an open world where you're making a much bigger world and that takes more time and effort. I get that, and I get why some people say that, but considering this is what they've done with, this concept, I just find it disappointing how this isn't, considering how well received new Pokemon Snap's art looks and its graphical style looks. Even though the graphics in general are kind of subpar because it's on Switch, the art direction, it looks like a cross between the anime and the games, and that's something we kind of have wanted from the games for a while, and I hope new Pokemon Snap, at least from a graphical sense, maybe gives Game Freak an idea of, what they can do for the next game after, Legends Arceus, which I will talk about as well. But yeah, other than that, it looks like how Pokemon Snap would be nowadays. It is a new Pokemon Snap. As much as I hate the name of the game, New Island, Yoshi's New Island, New Super Mario Brothers, New Pokemon Snap, credit where credit is due, it does technically make sense. It is a new Pokemon Snap on a new generation of hardware, and in a new generation of Pokemon fans. So, it makes sense. I still think it's a dumb title. Yoshi's New Island, New Super Mario Brothers. Oh, the new 3DS. I got a new 3DS. Oh, you got a new 3DS? No, I got a new 3DS, not a new 3DS. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, enough of that. New Pokemon Snap. Looks good. Don't really have much to say. Lucario better be in it. Otherwise, it's a 0 out of 10. Yes, I'm biased. Speaking of biasness, Generation 4 is a generation I actually think I've shat on, so that segue actually doesn't work. But fuck it, I'm gonna go with it anyway. So, I think years ago, when Pokemon X and Y was first announced, I think I said I didn't really enjoy Generation 4. I no longer agree with that. Those opinions are outdated, and they're from a younger teenage version of myself that I would probably cut the vocal box out of because he said a lot of stupid crap, because he was a teenager and he was dumb, but I hate my younger self so much for that because I played Pokemon Platinum again sometime in 2019, and after Sword and Shield just jaded me with its announcements, the game had yet to come out, granted, but it jaded me with a lot of the announcements, and I played Platinum again just to give it a chance, and the more I got into it, the more I realized how wrong I was for Pokemon Platinum. Keep in mind I said for Pokemon Platinum. But Pokemon Platinum is genuinely one of the best games in the franchise. I have changed my mind on that. Pokemon Platinum is awesome, and you should play it. It has some of the best League and Champion battles. It is just a really fun region to explore. Probably the best region in terms of exploring and level design. Not to put down Unova, Generation 5 is still my favorite generation, just because of the story, the lore, the world building, and all of the side content from Black and White 2. But Platinum has probably the best region. The Sinnoh region is probably my favorite, just because there's so much to it. There's a lot of optional areas that open up as you play through the story that you don't have to go through, but you can, and you can find certain Pokemon there. And that's something that the franchise has kind of been missing. On top of that, it's easily probably one of the more difficult games of the entire series, which, no, it's not Dark Souls or something along those lines, but it captures a nice balance between difficult but still welcoming, and it gradually gets more difficult over the course of time. Sure, it's not Dark Souls, and I don't want Pokemon to become Dark Souls. franchise probably would probably see that as a bad idea, you know. Game Freak especially, considering they don't want to put challenge into their newer games. But I think Generation 4 was the peak in terms of difficulty, with Generation 5's optional content giving it a run for its money, but not quite being there. But Generation 5 I still think is better just because it's more polished, it's faster, the animated sprites, the look, the feel. Unova, despite being based on America, being so welcoming. I feel it's better as an RPG, but Pokemon Platinum is still one of the best Pokemon games out there. And I would recommend you play it. Which is why I had high expectations for Generation 4 that I knew would never be met. Now, when I first saw the announcement, I was actually okay with it. But over the course of time, especially after watching a video made by Manga Common that confirmed that it would be $60 for each version, yeah, my opinions have kind of soured on it. To be fair, I do need to hear a bit more about what content will be in the game and what won't be in the game, if they're going to add anything new. But, you see, I don't mind the idea of them outsourcing this game to something else and it being much more of a small-scale remake. And in fact, you know what? In order to make the next game great, I actually am very happy they gave it to a different team, the team that made Pokemon Home, and actually made Yakuza 0, bit of an odd, you know, list of games you've made, but, you know, well, whatever, I hear Yakuza 0 is good, so, it is made by a team that knows what they're doing, so, despite the, you know, Yakuza and Pokemon being very different, I do think this could turn out to be a good idea, just because now Game Freak has more hands on deck for Legends Arceus, and they don't have to worry about, you know, like, working on two games at once. Hopefully they have more people and more time to work on Legends Arceus, which is, let's be honest here, the game people actually care about. Whereas with the Gen 4 remake, well, it's just a side thing. It's made by a different, you know, team to hold people over. And I appreciate that, but the game itself seems like it's gonna suffer for it. Now let me explain. I don't mind the idea of a smaller game. In fact, I actually thought Let's Go was a great idea, not just because it would get people into Pokemon, you know, the main series from Pokemon Go, but also because it would be a much smaller scale game. But it wasn't worth $60, because it felt like it didn't have the content of the remake, and it was way too easy. And in many ways it was lacking in content, because unlike with the Generation 3 remake of Gen 1, where it eventually had Johto Pokemon, and even had Hoenn Pokemon you could transfer over and could link up to other games, this one didn't really have any of that. And that's what made Let's Go suffer. It was a good idea, not well executed, unfortunately. I don't think it's as bad as some people say it is, but it's definitely not good. Soundtrack is pretty dope, though, so I'll give it that. Best soundtrack. Like, the remixes of Gen 1, like, I already love Gen 1 soundtrack, but the orchestrated pieces in that, I believe they are orchestrated, are just, mwah, so good. Back to Gen 4's remake, however, I do like how the art style is harkening back to the Gen 4 sprites. I know some people think it's lazy and kind of lame, especially comparing it to Link's Awakening, but I feel like Link's Awakening is a lot simpler, and because of that, you can do a lot more with it, whereas with Generation 4, I don't know. I feel like it's because the games were made on different generations and different pieces of hardware, because Platinum came out in 2010, and sure, it's not one of the best games on the DS in terms of graphics, but sprite work-wise, it was okay for its time, and it's very different when you compare it to Game Boy sprites. So I don't know if I can say the comparison is 100% fair. I personally am fine with what they're going for, and I like how they're going for a more accurate remake, something more small-scale in comparison to the previous remakes. On the other hand, though, how small is this gonna be? I would have been fine with this remake being the way it was if, one, it was just one game and it was a remake of Pokemon Platinum. This is where I get into why I said Pokemon Platinum is great, but I never said Diamond and Pearl. Now, I have not played much of Pearl, I do own Pearl, but I know about it, and I know for a fact that Diamond and Pearl are easily probably some of the worst Pokemon games. Diamond and Pearl, not Platinum. Because Diamond and Pearl were actually rushed out. Sure, the English version did have a couple of fixes, but generally speaking, it had a lot of issues with its Pokemon variety, or lack thereof, and the region just feeling unfinished. Sure, it had some content, but, like, the content was, I don't know, it felt like there was a chunk of the game missing, which Platinum pretty much gave us. You know, Platinum, it's why Platinum probably started work right after, you know, Diamond and Pearl. They probably started working on Platinum alongside Diamond and Pearl because they knew they wouldn't be able to finish Diamond and Pearl. It just felt rushed and lazy. It's probably even worse than X and Y. X and Y, at the very least, felt like it was finished, even if it wasn't great. Whereas with, say, Diamond and Pearl, it felt like a chunk of the game was actually missing. Platinum was more like a patch update to finish it, except it was a whole other game. And that's where my big worry is with this remake. Is it going to have something similar to Platinum? Is it going to have the Platinum content? Is it going to have a side story like ORAS, you know, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which, even though I have issues with that game, I do think it is a good remake, even if it doesn't surpass Emerald. I haven't played Emerald, but I did play Sapphire. I do think it is a good game, though. One of the better games from the 3DS era alongside Sun and Moon, but, you know, the other two 3DS games, you know, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and X and Y. I have opinions on them. They're not very positive. But anyway, with this Gen 4 remake, because of how Diamond and Pearl, just Diamond and Pearl was, what is it gonna, like, is this remake gonna axe anything? Is it gonna have all 493 Pokemon from around that time, you know, when Gen 4 was the current gen? Or is it just gonna have the Sinnoh Pokemon? Because even with Platinum, the Sinnoh Dex, I think, just goes up to, like, 230-something, which is fine, but compared to X and Y and Sun and Moon and you know, even Sword and Shield, that's pretty lacking. And again, this is selling for a full, each version is $60. That's been confirmed. I don't think this is worth $60, you know? It looks like a very, very one-to-one remake with a couple of, you know, new additions, and graphically it's different. But generally speaking, it's Diamond and Pearl as you know it. At least, that's what it seems to be. They also didn't clarify how many Pokemon are actually going to be able to be playable in this, because again, like Sword and Shield, not every Pokemon is going to be in the game. And if this is going to be the current Pokemon game for a while, well, how many Pokemon are actually going to be... What is the online play going to be like? And that was a big part of the original Generation 4, because that was when... that was the first Pokemon game to use Wi-Fi for online battling. What is that going to be like? Is it going to be, like, bare bones, like Let's Go? Is it going to be better than Sword and Shield? God forbid. Hopefully it will be. There's a lot about the remake we don't know about, so I was at first cautiously optimistic, now I'm just cautious about it, especially with that $60 price tag. How much effort is this gonna get? I like the art style. I understand it's not the best it could possibly be, but I do think, since this is probably gonna be a budget title, it looks okay. And you know, Generation 4 is a good, you know, like Platinum at least, is a good game, and Sinnoh is a good region. And to be fair, Platinum exists. They could take a lot of elements from Platinum and wove it into Diamond and Pearl. Probably, which is what Diamond and Pearl would have been if it wasn't rushed. You know, the Pokédex will probably be the one from Platinum. But what else will this have? That's what I'm concerned about. Will it have the Platinum content? Will it not? Will it have something entirely new? How many Pokemon are going to be in it? Is it just going to be the 200-something Pokemon and that's it? Because that's kind of lame. Graphically, the battles actually have... It's sort of like Final Fantasy VII, where, you have the chibi sprites in the... Well, not sprites, they're models, in the overworld, but then it switches to, actual, life-size models with the battles. That's sort of what they're doing for this remake, which is fine, but again, how is this gonna go? That's what I'm concerned about. And also, why is it 2 versions? Why is it 2 Why, if you're charging $60 for 2 games again, why is it 2 versions? What, for trading? People are gonna trade no matter what. Whatever. It's dumb. It's dumb. I feel like this remake... I was okay with it at first, but the more I learn about it and the more I think on it, the worse it gets. So I'm not really excited for the new Gen 4 remake. In fact, hearing that it costs $60 just made me not want to buy it. It would have been better if they just re-released Pokemon Platinum on, the Virtual Console, which I know doesn't exist, but you get what I mean. If they just digitally re-released it with its online capabilities back up. Because I honestly think that would be pretty good. But no, they didn't do that, so whatever. I mean, I probably would have bought it, because you have to, pay an arm and a leg for Platinum, and I do have Platinum, but I'll be honest, the cartridge, it kind of has a hard time working sometimes, and I would like to get a new copy, but considering most new copies of DS Pokemon games, besides maybe Diamond and Pearl, cost about, $200, I'd rather not spend $200 on a game that I do enjoy, but it's not worth $200. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not feeling the Gen 4 remake. I'm not against it being a smaller remake, not as big as Heart Gold Soul Silver or even Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and definitely the Gen 1 remake as well. It is probably the weakest remake. It screams of a bit of laziness, but I would be okay with it, but the more again, being $60 and being based on Diamond and Pearl and not necessarily Platinum and being 2 versions, the issues pile up. So with that disappointment out of the way, let's talk about what I'm pretty sure everybody wants me to talk about, Legends Arceus. So this seems like the game we wanted Sword and Shield to be. Granted, not in the way we expected, since I'm sure a lot of us expected it would be a new region and not necessarily a past region, literally set in the past. But it's still an interesting idea nonetheless, how it takes place hundreds of years afterwards. I don't know if we're going to have gyms. I do like how we have Pokeballs, which have they're older Pokeballs. They're very different, very old looking. They have locks on them, and not necessarily the technology we're used to. I do like how the trainer designs are sort of like past incarnations of the Gen 4 main characters. On top of that, I really like how the female trainer especially, they sort of seem like ninjas. Not to say they are, but they seem like they're actually prepared to fight Pokemon themselves. Since yes, Pokemon can indeed fight you. They can indeed attack you. Now, I don't know if they're going to go that far with it, if they're going to go so far as to have your trainer get knocked out or black out when you're defeated. Obviously, you're not going to die, but it is still interesting. And I like how battling is actually much more of an option, but not necessarily what you do. Yes, Pokemon can attack you. You have a dodge roll. You have options in stealth. Now, these are something that were in Sword and Shield to an extent, but nowhere near as much as this. This seems like the Pokemon game, Pokemon Breath of the Wild, open world game we've really wanted. And there are a few issues, mostly graphically and for its art style and the way it looks and how it doesn't look finished. But I'll get into why I don't think that's as big of a deal as it was for Sword and Shield in a minute. I will say this game has potential. It has the potential to be what we've all wanted it to be. even if it's not in the way we might have expected, this might be an actual series evolution. Like, I don't know if we're gonna have all of the Pokemon in it. I would like it if we did, but we're probably not. But like, look at the animations. We actually have Pokemon interacting with each other. Whenever a move like a punching move actually happens, the Pokemon actually goes to the other Pokemon and actually hits him physically. It's not like Double Kick in Sword and Shield, where it's literally just them hopping up a little bit and then there's like a foot animation and that's it. It's not like that at all. It's actually a genuine attack. Battling Pokemon is much more of an option. It's not necessarily what you have to do, which is an interesting idea. How they made the entire concept of battling wild Pokemon completely optional. Now, of course, you're probably going to want to do it eventually anyway. You got to gain experience somehow. But again, the ideas in this are very interesting. I don't think they're going to have gyms, but whatever they might have in its place could be interesting, and that's what I kind of want to see. I hope it doesn't just turn into a catching spree, you know, just like, oh, you can catch Pokemon and battle people online, which is cool, but I kind of want a bit more. I kind of want a goal, and that's something the other games have. Also, if they're going to have an evil team, how is that going to work? This trailer just seems to be like the base, okay, we're making an open world game taking place in Sinnoh's past, there might be some Pokemon you don't expect to be here, and you also have battling as more of an option instead of a necessity. Which, unlike Let's Go, where it was turned into a mini-game, where you just chuck Pokeballs at Pokemon until you hope to God one of them catches, and god damn it, Chansey, stop leaving. Anyway, this one seems like, okay, I can battle this Pokemon and catch it that way, or I could save, you know, I could save my Pokemon's HP because I don't have a whole lot of items, and instead I could just walk up to it with a, you know, stealthy, sneaky approach and snatch it that way. But if I get too close, it might attack me. If it hears my footsteps, it'll attack me. I can go after the Pokemon myself, or I can send my Pokemon to do the work. That's interesting. That's a very interesting idea, especially taking place in hundreds of years in the past, supposedly, and not being in the present time where, let's be honest here, battling is just much more convenient, and there's more technology, and Pokeballs are probably stronger, so it makes more sense to just battle and not necessarily do the whole sneaking around. On top of that, it keeps children a bit more safe in this world where they're allowed to compete in legalized cockfights with these animals that have extremely dangerous powers and can probably level cities if they wanted to. That aside, though, I do like this idea where instead of capturing Pokemon the way we're used to, we have other options available to us. We actually have like sort of an open world survival. It's probably not going to be a big survival fest. Like I know for a fact they're not going to go full on like, say, I don't know, Witcher or Breath of the Wild. But again, the ideas taken from other games is interesting, and apparently it's going to be more of an action RPG, which also interests me. Now, I don't think we're going to be controlling the Pokemon. The turn-based stuff still seems to stay. But again, Pokemon's battle system is not necessarily bad. It's just the game doesn't utilize its really good battle system very well at all. And hopefully this will make it work a lot better. Plus, they better make the online play a lot better too, and not fuck it up like they have been since Generation 7. It's just one of those where a lot of the ideas are very fascinating, and I'm interested to see where it goes. Now, let's talk about graphics, because I'll be honest here, the game looks terrible. Like, from a graphical art direction standpoint, I do like how the trainers look, I do like a lot of the new artwork, but the game itself looks horrendous. It looks like it's still in beta. However, unlike with Sword and Shield, where it looked terrible at launch, you know, they did eventually address some of the complaints, and, changed a few things. It didn't really work, but oh well. The animations seem to be improved. They do seem to be taking a lot of notes from the people who have criticized Sword and Shield and even past Pokemon, entries before it. And on top of that, yes, the frame rate on some of the Pokemon is terrible. Graphically, the game looks pretty bad, but I do like how the open world looks from just a pure art direction standpoint. Yes, it's very Breath of the Wild, but to be honest, that's kind of what I wanted, so I don't really care. The trainers look fine, but the animations look a bit stiff. The Pokemon literally don't walk up. They literally just, teleport while their model is completely stationary and then attack, kind of like how other RPGs work. I don't know. It doesn't look very good, but the game is actually coming out in 2022. It's not coming out in 2021. It's coming out sometime, hopefully, late next year, which means they have an entire year left of development. And they've probably been working on this probably since, I would say, Sword and Shield released, if I had to guess. And considering how, again, the Gen 4 remake is being outsourced to a different, studio, it's probably going to be more of a budget title, so again, it feels like all of their eggs are going into this one basket. That basket being Pokemon Legends Arceus. They're going with a different direction, they're trying a shit ton of new stuff, and whoops. And on top of that, stepped on something. On top of that, the game is coming out at a very later point. We're not going to have a major release for Pokemon. Besides Pokemon Snap and the Gen 4 remake, which doesn't even really look like that major of a release, and it's being made by a completely separate studio, this seems like Game Freak is actually taking the criticism from a lot of people to heart. Not all of it, but enough of it. The right criticism. Have all of your developers develop one single version of one game. Start to utilize the other regions and other Pokemon. And on top of that, refine, change, take a new direction, do something different, have an open world, maybe have some MMO-like stuff. And again, they're doing most of that. And on top of that, the game is not being released this year. They're taking their time. This is stuff I've wanted them to do. Now, there is some other stuff I would recommend they do as well, mostly with other products or even with this one, but this is a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping it sticks. Hoping it sticks. I'm cautiously optimistic about this one, but I need to see more in order to be justified in, say, pre-ordering it or spending $60 on it like day 2 or whatever. I'm interested. You have my attention. Can you keep it? That's what I want to know. But this is a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping the rest of the game turns out really good. We have something that we have wanted for a while. We could actually have the Pokemon game we have always wanted, but never got with this game. It still looks a bit rough, but I want to see where it goes before I write it off completely. Don't fuck this up, Game Freak, please. This does look interesting. So yeah, I'm almost out of breath because I'm tired and I think I'm sick, so I'm gonna go to bed.